Under the comforting hum of their old sedan, Jake and Sarah embarked on what was supposed to be an adventure of a lifetime. They had planned this road trip with meticulous detail, charting a course through America's heartland to discover the hidden gems far off the usual tourist paths. As miles stretched into hours, their conversation dwindled, replaced by a shared contentment and the occasional tune from an old radio station. But as dusk approached, their trusted GPS flickered unexpectedly and rebooted, displaying a new route marked in a foreboding red. "Must be a glitch," Jake muttered, tapping at the screen. But the GPS insisted, rerouting them away from the main highway and onto a narrow dirt road that snaked into dense woods. The trees leaned close, like curious onlookers, their branches scratching against the car as the sky darkened into an ominous gray. Sarah's unease grew with every mile, the forest seemingly swallowing them whole. "This doesn't look right, Jake. Maybe we should turn back," she suggested, her voice barely above a whisper as if afraid to stir the heavy silence that had fallen inside the car. "Just a little further," Jake said, his curiosity piqued. The road, though unkempt and barely visible, had an allure that he couldn't resist. As they rounded a sharp bend, the woods abruptly opened up to reveal an abandoned town. Buildings, desolate and deteriorating, stood as silent sentinels to a forgotten era. The car rolled to a stop in the middle of the main street, the engine's cessation echoing eerily in the still air. "Looks like we found one of those hidden gems," Jake joked, though the smile didn't quite reach his eyes. But before she could voice her fears, an old man appeared from the shadow of a doorway. "You shouldn't be here," he rasped, his eyes darting nervously. "Leave before nightfall or you'll be stuck like the rest of us." Reluctantly, Sarah agreed, and they stepped out into the cool, still air. The town, if it could still be called that, was a time capsule of decay. Each step kicked up swirls of dust, and their footsteps sounded unnaturally loud against the backdrop of silence. They explored a small diner, its tables still set with dusty glasses and faded menus. A general store's shelves were half-stocked with goods that were now just faded boxes and cans. As they walked, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Shadows seemed to flicker at the corner of her vision, and the silence was oppressive, broken only by their own movements. That's when they heard it, a faint melody like a music box drifting through the air. It was coming from the church at the end of the street. Drawn by the haunting tune, they approached the church. The music grew louder, more insistent. Inside, the church was dim, lit only by the last rays of the setting sun filtering through stained glass. The pews were lined up neatly, untouched by time, and at the altar, a dusty music box played on its own. As Jake reached out to stop the music, the room chilled instantly. The door slammed shut behind them, and the faint sound of whispering filled the air. Sarah clutched at Jake's arm. "We need to leave, now." They hurried to the door, but it wouldn't budge. Panicked, they searched for another way out, the whispers growing louder until they could make out words, warnings, pleas, cries of anguish from voices long lost. The music box stopped abruptly, and the church plunged into darkness. Then, just as suddenly, the door flew open, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. They didn't hesitate, sprinting back to their car and speeding away from the town. As the town faded into the distance, Sarah looked back. In the rearview mirror, she saw figures standing in the street, watching them leave. Jake saw them too, and he floored the accelerator, not stopping until they reached the main highway. Back on familiar ground, they shared a glance, relief mixed with disbelief. "What was that?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know, but let's not find out," Jake replied, taking one last look at the GPS to make sure they were headed home. As they drove into the night, the echoes of the town lingered in their minds, a haunting melody that neither could forget. They had sought adventure, but found a ghostly reminder that some places are best left undiscovered.